start. And Katie, where's Brian? There's Brian, okay. And Jane, the four of us, we can take up preliminary matters for executive session.
You're all set to go, Mr. Chairman.
All right, calling to order August 12, 2021 Fairfield Zoning Board of Appeals. As the notice indicates, we're conducting this hearing and meeting by way of WebEx due to the pandemic. What I ask everyone to do is make sure you are on mute if it is not your turn to speak. When a matter is called in public hearing, I will introduce the matter and then I will call for people to speak, whether it's the applicant or people opposed. If I don't call for you to speak, make sure you're on mute. I will make sure I give you lots of time. Come in. I go much slower on the Zoom than I do on in-person meetings, because in person I can see you raise your hand or stand up. Here it's a little harder, so just please speak up. Let me know that you want to talk and give me your name, and I will do my best to call you in order and make sure everyone is heard. Before we just do some preliminary matters on our agenda for executive session, I just want to note that there are several matters on our agenda which have been either withdrawn or continued. The continued docket number 2, 654 Tungus Hill Road, has been withdrawn. The continued docket number 12, which is 645 Fairfield Beach Road, that is continued to the September hearing. And on a regular docket, number 9, which is 740 11 o'clock Road, that is also continued to the September hearing. So no business is going to be conducted on any of those matters. So now I'd like to entertain some preliminary matters. We have 2 matters on our agenda. After we take up those 2 matters, we'll be suspending executive working session and recalling it later. We're going to have to recall the executive session 2 different times. One on Vesper Road, which is a continued hearing from our July hearing. We're going to pick that up by allowing the applicant and the people that are in opposition to that to speak. And then we will take that up in the executive session. We will then return back to public hearing. And at the completion of public hearing, we will take up all other matters that went forward today. So the 2 matters we have for preliminary are approval of our minutes from July 2021 hearing. I'll entertain a motion to approve those minutes.
So moved.
Thank you, Brian. Is there a second?
Jane, second.
Thank you, Jane. Is there any discussion? Okay, hearing no discussion. The board members there in favor say aye or raise your hand so I can see it. I see all hands raised. Any opposed? None. And no abstentions. Motion carries. Second is approval of secretary's fees. Entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Thank you, Brian. Is there a second?
Second. Jane, seconds.
Thank you, Jane. Is there any discussion? Hearing no discussion, would the board members either raise your hand so I can see it on my screen? I see all hands raised. I don't see Katie's hands raised. I see her hand raised down. Mine. Any against? Any opposed? None. And no abstentions. That motion carries as well. We're going to suspend our executive working session until we recall it after the Vesper, for the Vesper application only, and then we'll suspend it again and finish up with our working session at the end. Once I have one more board member present, I will open up the public hearing. looks like Terry, there he is. Terry's joining. He's muted right now. Terry, you there? Give me a thumbs up if you can hear. Terry, you with us? Thumbs up. All right, are we ready, Mr. Decker?
Yes, we are, Mr. Chairman.
All right. I'll call to order Zoning Board of Appeals, Fairfield, Connecticut, August 12, 2021. When I call a matter, I'm going to state what is on our docket, and that is the official call recognizing that matter. I will then invite the applicant to speak. Please make sure you stay muted. Anyone who wants to talk about any application, stay muted until I invite you to speak, whether it's the applicant or people that have comments, whether you're in favor or against. I want to make sure there's only one person talking at a time, and I want to make sure everyone can hear, especially the board members. When a matter is called, the applicant during your presentation, you can refer to the exhibits and maps and petitions that were submitted as in part of the applicant and the package. You can refer to that. If you have the ability and technology and you want to share it on the screen, you can do so as well. But I want to make sure you know that we have everything that you've sent in. So you can refer to it and we have it in front of us, or we can look at it on our computers. Because everything has been submitted to us by way of email. So there's no problem if you cannot show it on the screen and you don't know how to do that, please refer to it. But the board members have reviewed your applications and they have either visited the site or looked at it on Google Maps or made themselves familiar with your site and your neighborhood. So you can rest assured that you can comment on any of those aspects, whatever you want. After the application is presented, I will then ask anyone who has a comment, whether you're in favor of it or against it, to speak up. And at that point, don't start talking about, your position, but just give me your name and whether you're in favor or against it. And then I'll do my best to call in order. I typically will call those in favor first, and then I will call those in opposition next and give them an opportunity to speak. If there is any opposition to an application, I will then allow the applicant or his or her agent to then speak to that particular opposition. At that time, just so you know, for the applicants or agents, it is not a time to restate your application. It is a time to address the opposition comments. The meeting is being taped. We've been doing this for a while this way, but still it is a little bit difficult and it's a little out of a comfort zone for a lot of people. So please take your time, speak slowly. We want to make sure everyone is heard and only one person can speak at a time. Anyone who does speak, you have to give your name and your address so we can have a record, because it's very important. It's required by law that we have a complete record. So we want to know who is speaking. We welcome the comments of anyone who's interested in an application. However, as chairman, I will reserve my right to restrict your comments at any time if you go too far off the point. Just remember, this is a zoning board of appeals. What we're addressing in all of these applications are requests for variance of zoning regulations, whether it's a setback, lot coverage, or floor area ratio, or something like that. We are only addressing a request to give the applicant relief from those regulations. We're not addressing anything else. We're not addressing traffic. We're not addressing flooding. We're not addressing anything but those particular issues. So just keep that in mind. Applicants and interested people may remain in attendance on this WebEx format when we reconvene into our working session at the end. At that time, we will be discussing and then voting on any and all applications that go forward today. It's very important that the applicant hear our comments, and I think it's very important that if you're interested in a particular matter, that you also listen to our comments. We do this a little bit uniquely, that we allow you to listen to our comments so you can know what we're thinking and why we're deciding on a particular matter in a particular way. So I think it's an important thing for everyone to understand that they're entitled to do that. You cannot speak during that. But it's because only people speaking are the board members who are deciding that particular matter. There are 5 voting members for each application. In order for your application to be granted, you need a supermajority. You need at least 4 out of 5 to vote in favor. If it's a simple majority, 3-2, that application is denied. If an application for a waiver of a zoning regulation is granted, it needs to be recorded on the land records, and it will not be valid until it's recorded. So therefore, you must bring or send a check in the amount of $60 made out to the town of Fairfield and bring or send it to the zoning office Wednesday or later following the meeting for proper recording of the notice and filing. If you cannot stay in attendance after the public hearing for our working session, you can contact the zoning office to find out what happened. Any waiver involving construction, whether it's a new dwelling, addition, or alteration, will require an as-built prior to the issuance of certificate of zoning compliance and certificate of occupancy. Just to remind everyone, the following matters have been either withdrawn or continued. Number 2 on the continued docket, 654 Thompson Road, has been withdrawn. Number 12, continued docket, 635 Fairfield Beach Road, has been continued to September. And on our general regular docket, number 9, which is 740 11 o'clock road, has been continued.
The audio is very bad. The audio.
I agree.
Now, number 9.
Mr. Chairman, it was, you're having just a little bit of static when you're speaking.
How about now, Matt? Can you hear?
That's much better, yeah.
Does this with WebEx
That's it.
and
Yeah, that's great, yeah.
Microsoft Teams.
I can hear you well.
So the matter is just number 2 on the continued docket, 654 Tungus Hill Road, withdrawn. Number 12, which is 645 Fairfield Beach Road, continued to September. And number 9 on the regular docket, 740 11 o'clock road, continued to September. No action or decisions on those in this hearing. I'll call our first matter for business, and that's our continued docket, number 10, 34 Dalewood Road, map 130, parcel 248, petition of Nora Comer's Rila for variance of zoning regulation. Zoning regulation, section 5.1.1, to reduce the minimum lot size and lot square from 6,000 square feet and 60 square feet, currently 4,552 square feet and 40 square feet, proposing 4,500 square feet and 39 square feet, and section 2.7 to reduce street frontage from 60 feet, currently 40 feet, proposing 39.55 feet, permission to grant a driveway easement, premises B zone. I think Attorney Bamonte is presenting this.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good afternoon, everyone. Again, my name is Nicholas Bamonte. I'm an attorney with Bertram Moses out of Westport. We represent the applicant, Nora Comer's Ria, owner of 34 Dalewood Avenue. So the reason that we're requesting these 3 relatively minor variances is so that we can legally grant the abutting neighbors at 44 Dalewood a very small driveway easement. We need these variances because the town zoning regulations define lot area to exclude driveway easements. which means that because this property is already undersized, and we would technically be reducing the size even further by granting this easement, technically again under the regs, these variances are necessary. In total, the proposed easement area is quite small, roughly 52 square feet. And you could see it depicted in the most recent survey that we filed as part of our application. That's the survey with a revision dated June 30th of this year. The easement, if you have that survey in front of you, is that thin gray shaded area along the northern property line running from Dalewood Avenue, roughly 2/3 of the way into the property. And what that easement does is it would reduce three things under your zoning regulations. Number one, the total lot size by 52 square feet, the lot square by 1 foot, and the street frontage by just under half a foot. So as I mentioned, this property is unique because it's a narrow, undersized lot with the old residence constructed around 1918 or so. And these characteristics have contributed actually to a dispute between the applicant and her neighbors at 44 Dalewood over this portion of the applicant's property that the neighbors have historically used as part of their driveway. So this dispute between the neighbors has actually resulted in litigation starting in the summer of 2019. However, at this point, the parties have agreed to settle the case if the applicant grants this proposed driveway easement to the neighbors. So that's what we're proposing to do here. The applicant is certainly willing to do that, but as I mentioned, first, we need these variances in order to actually file our map with the town effectuating the easement. So again, we're seeking these three variances so that Ms. Comer's RIA can legally grant the easement to her immediate neighbors, and so that we could resolve what has turned into a couple years long dispute between them. The neighbors, Derek and Megan Nabozny, fully support this request. I believe at least one of them is on the call here today. We've also noticed through Mr. Decker all of the nearby neighbors as required under your regulations, and we are unaware of any objections. With that, Mr. Chairman, I think that essentially summarizes our application. I am happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Attorney Bamonte. Are there any questions for Attorney Bamonte? Shakings of the head, no, so there's no questions. Is there anyone that wishes to speak in favor or against this particular application?
Hi, good afternoon, Megan Nabozny. I'm in favor of the application. I am the neighbor at 44 Dalewood Avenue.
Thank you, Ms. Nabozny. Anyone else in favor or opposed to this? All right, no one else, so and no opposition. So thank you very much, Attorney Bamonte. The hearing on 34 Dalewood is now closed. We'll be taking that up at the end of the meeting in our working session. Thank you, sir.
Very good. Thank you, everyone.
Our next item on the agenda was number 12, continued. That has been continued again. And we don't have Daphne. We're going to be passing number 13 and 14, which relate to 49 Vesper. We'll move on to the general docket. But Mr. Decker, could you keep an eye out when you see Daphne and Faith? Just give me a note in between matters so I make sure I take it up.
I will, thank you.
Thanks. General docket number 1, 1159 Hulls Farm Road, map 246, parcel 29, petition of Carl and Lucy Cedarholm for a variance of zoning regulations section 5.2.4.3 to reduce the sideline setback from 30 feet, proposing 10.8 feet, permission to construct a one-story detached garage, premise AAA zone. And Attorney Fitzpatrick, I think that's you, sir?
It is, Mr. Chairman. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can.
Thank you. Mr. Chairman, members of the board, for the record, my name is Bill Fitzpatrick. I'm an attorney in Fairfield with the law firm of Fitzpatrick, Frey, and Bologna. We have offices at 1735 Post Road. I'm here this afternoon representing the owners and residents of the property at 1159 Holmes Farm Road, Carl and Lucy Cedarholm. This property is located on the southerly side of Holmes Farm and is bordered on the south and the west by Sasko River. This property contains 2.5 acres and is located in the Residence AAA zoning district. The applicants wish to construct a one-story, four-bay garage for the storage of the owner's antique cars. The proposed garage is located in the easterly portion of the property adjacent to an existing 20-foot right-of-way, which is a driveway to both the applicant's home and a single-family home to the rear of this property. The proposed garage will be located within the 30-foot side setback line. As a result, the applicants are requesting a variance of section 5.2.4 of the zoning regulations to permit a reduction in the side property line setback from 30 feet to 10.8 feet in conjunction with the construction of a one-story garage. The legal test for the approval of a variance is outlined in the case of Smith v. Zoning Board of Appeals, 174 Connecticut 326, a 1978 case which states, quote, regarding hardship, under General Statute, Section 8-6, parents 3 and parents, the local zoning board may grant a variance where two basic conditions are met. One, the variance is shown not to affect substantially the comprehensive zoning plan, and two, adherence to the strict letter of the zoning regulation is shown to cause unusual hardship, unnecessary to the carrying out of the general purpose of the zoning plan, end quote. First part of the test, no substantial effect on the comprehensive plan is satisfied here with the proposed use. The construction of a garage is certainly a permitted use in the residence AAA zone. The second part of the test, adherence to the strict letter of the zoning regulations will cause unusual hardship, will cause unusual unnecessary to the carrying out of the general purpose of the zoning regs is satisfied here. I would submit by several different factors. The primary factor for the board to evaluate in considering this variance request is the classic variance legal hardship, which is the unusual topographic nature of this property. Sasko River abuts the property on the south and the west, and the property also contains an associated pond. As a result, approximately half the property is designated as wetland soils. In the town of Fairfield, the designation of property as a wetland soil means that there is a required review and approval of the Fairfield Conservation Commission prior to any building. In any construction in a wetland soil, by my extensive land use experience, is unlikely to be approved, even in the best case scenario. The end result is that the topographic nature of the property with the river, the pond, the wetland soils, and the 100-year flood elevation all on this property severely limits any construction on site. The proposed one-story garage is located adjacent to an existing 20-foot right-of-way, which is a driveway to this property and a property to the rear. The purpose of the side yard setbacks is to ensure that construction does not intrude on a neighboring property owner. In this case, the fact that the proposed garage is adjacent to a driveway further limits any impact on a neighbor. In addition, the construction of the proposed garage does not constitute an overbuilding on this property, since the proposed coverage with the one-story garage in place is 3.95%, when the permitted coverage in the residence AAA zone is almost triple that at 10%. Similarly, the building floor area ratio, again, with the garage in place, is 5.08%, when the permitted building floor area ratio, again in this zone, is almost triple that at 15%. I should note that the applicant has filed a certificate of wetlands conformance application for this garage with the Town of Fairfield Conservation Department. I have met with the Conservation Department on several occasions, and the wetlands certificate application is in the process of approval. In addition, the applicant has contacted possibly affected neighbors, the neighbor across the right-of-way, and the neighbor whose home is accessed by the right-of-way have both signed a petition indicating they have no objection to this minimal proposal. Efforts to contact the neighbor across Hulls Farm Road from the right-of-way have proven unsuccessful. The board has a copy of the certified mailing to the trust that owns that 20-acre piece of property across Hulls Farm Road. In any event, there's no impact on that property by virtue of the construction of this garage. For the reasons I've outlined, I'd request the application be approved. The possibly affected neighbors have no objection, and approval of this application permits the construction of a one-story garage in a minimally obtrusive location on a parcel of property where building sites are severely restricted by on-site topographic conditions. My client is on this call. He and I would be happy to answer any questions the board may have.
Thank you, Attorney Fitzpatrick. Does the board have any questions?
Go ahead, Sharon.
Seeing no and hearing no questions, is there anyone that wishes to speak either in favor or against this application? Hearing nothing. Thank you, Attorney Fitzpatrick. We'll be taking this up at the end. The hearing on 1159 Hulls Farm Road is now closed.
Thank you very much.
Next,
Hey, Matt. Please
Yes.
check the chat. Sorry, Chairman.
What was that?
Please check the chat. I'm all done, Mr. Chairman. That was something for just Matt.
Matt, do you see the chat there from? If Ms. O'Sullivan is on the call, that has been continued to September hearing. Hasn't been acted on. All right, next item that we have, thank you, Brian. Next item that we have is number 2, 46 Baldwin Terrace, map 139, parcel 35. Petition of Paul and Julie Falzone for a variance of zoning regulation, section 5.2.4 to reduce the street line setback for an open porch from 20 feet, proposing 17 feet. And section 5.2.5 to increase lot coverage and total floor area from 20% and 40%, proposing 22.05% and 48.98%. Permission to construct a FEMA compliant 2.5-story single-family dwelling premises A zone. And I believe the owners are presenting this, but
Yes. Can you
okay.
hear me over there?
Yes, we can hear you. Do you
Okay.
see you?
It's echoing where I am. My name is Paul Falzone for 46 Baldwin Terrace. We're here again for a variance.
You're gonna have to keep
We've
your
heard, you know-
voice up.
Say that again?
You're gonna have to talk louder to make sure everyone hears.
Okay, okay. You hear me now?
Yes, keep your voice up as loud as you can.
Okay. Okay, we're trying to get this variance again for 46 Baldwin Terrace. We've heard your concerns, and we've gone back to the architect and we've made some adjustments to reduce the total coverage of the lot size. And we reduced the footprint as far as the square footage inside the home. Philip Cerrone is on this call if you have any questions regarding it. And that's it for me, I guess.
Mr. Chairman, can you hear me? It's Phil Cerrone. Can you hear me? No.
So I was able to hear you.
Go ahead.
You can hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So just to add a little bit to what Paul just said is that this application came before the board and was denied in a previous meeting. Since then, we scaled back the house. We've reduced the floor area by about 310 square feet. We reduced the coverage by about 270 square feet. So we're trying to do everything that we can to kind of bring it more into conformance. The lot's a non-conforming lot of 6,000 square feet. The zone is a 9,375 square foot requirement. If we were to have a lot of the proper size, then we would actually be able to have a much bigger house than we're even proposing here. So what we're proposing is less than what the zone actually does allow. We obviously do need a variance, but really the reason that we need the variance is to be able to build a modestly sized house on a lot that's only 6,000 square feet. So we did do everything that we could to try to bring it into conformance. One of the issues and one of the reasons we need the coverage variances too, is that, as you know, we're in a FEMA zone, which requires us to elevate the house, which requires additional steps and landings, platforms for generators and HVAC systems. That all adds to the coverage, which if we were able to build it on grade or just a couple of feet above grade, then that would automatically diminish some of the need for the variance. So that's kind of just a quick overview of where we are. We're happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Does the board have any questions for Mr. Falzone and Mrs. Cerrone? Yes, Jane, go ahead. Can't hear you yet, Jane.
I can't hear her.
Never mind. I'll get back to you.
We can hear you now. Now we heard you.
Now you heard me? Okay. It just had to. Okay, we're good. So I thank you for revisiting this property, the design, but you're still 8.9% over on the FAR, right?
That's correct. That's the variance. That's one of the variances we're asking for is the 8.9%.
Right.
We
So
were at 54% before. We're now at 48.9.
okay, and why can't you just bring it down even more so it is compliant in terms of the FAR? What would you have to lose?
We'd have to cut another 300 or 400 square feet out of the house, and we really kind of cut as much as we could out of the house.
Well,
it's not the house. The total floor area of the house is less than 3,000 square feet.
yeah.
And again, it's in my opinion, it's in conformance with, the houses that are in the area. It's not like we're trying to build something that's much bigger than anything there. If we were to have a lot that was conforming in that neighborhood, we could build 3,750 square feet. We're
Right.
not even at 3,000 square feet.
Right, but that's the if if you had a bigger lot, you could do
The
this,
zone,
but you don't.
the zone would allow you to build 3,700 square feet. Again, we're trying to fit in with the neighborhood.
Yeah. Well, the neighborhood's changing. We all agree on that. And the houses are getting bigger. I see Kevin smiling. But it doesn't mean you have to build that big.
No, I understand that. But I mean, in order for us to kind of get what we want out of the house, we need to get it to close to 3,000 square feet. It's a 2.5-story house. The footprint is, as small as we could keep it. The footprint is about 1,200 square feet or maybe even less. Our total coverage is only 1,300 square feet.
Right.
Which the total coverage is pretty close within 50 square feet of what's there currently. What's there currently is 1,315 square feet with 1,320. So we're almost exactly the same coverage and footprint of what's currently there.
Right.
It's just that we're adding more square footage above it.
Right. Okay. Well, thank you. Thank you for
You're
that
welcome.
explanation.
Any other questions from the board? Okay, no other questions. Is there anyone that wishes to speak in favor or in opposition to this application, 46 Baldwin Terrace? Hearing nothing, okay, the hearing on 46 Baldwin Terrace is now closed. Thank you, Mr. Falzone. Thank you, Mr. Cerrone.
Thank you for your time.
Okay, I see Daphne. Is Faith on yet?
I haven't seen her yet, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, well, let's keep moving forward on the others. The next item for business is number 3, Field Road, map 182, parcel 262. Petition of Scott Wright for a variance of the zoning regulations, section 5.2.4, to reduce the street line setback on a corner lot from 20 feet, currently 20.2 feet, proposing 17.7 feet, and section 5.2.5 to increase lot coverage and total floor area from 30% and 50%, currently 20.6% and 35.7%, proposing 31.1% and 58.6%. Permission to build a new FEMA compliant single-family dwelling, premises B zone. Is the applicant,
Mr. Chairman, can you hear me? It's Pete Gelderman.
yes, Attorney Gelvin, you're handling this for?
Yeah, Scott Wright asked me to do the presentation for him, so here I am. The first thing I wanted to do, Mr. Chairman, is just to straighten an issue out with respect to the setbacks. As I understand the regulations in a Residence B zone, on a corner lot of more than one story, one of the street setbacks is 20 feet, the other is 17. And I think I saw Jim went, if I'm wrong about that, I tried to verify that, and that's our surveyor indicated that that is the correct way to do it on a corner lot in a B zone. So having said that, only one of the two front setbacks requires a variance, and that's the setback along Catherine Street. And that actually is a reduction of the nonconformity from currently it's 4.6 feet from the street, and we're proposing it at its closest point, the stairway to the porch, to be 14.5 feet away. So it's a 10-foot reduction in the nonconformity. We're moving back away from Catherine Street by about 10 feet from the existing house, which was built in 1914. The setback along Oldfield Road is 17.2 feet, which is compliant to the requirement of 17 feet. So the notice was a little bit confusing as to that, I think, but obviously with respect to the Catherine Street setback, as the board I'm sure knows, a reduction in a nonconformity can be an independent grounds for the grant of a variance. So this is a substantial reduction in the nonconformity of the setback along Catherine Street. With respect to the coverage and the floor area ratio, the coverage, and this is new construction, and I listened to the last presentation and I understand those issues. This is new construction. What happened was, first of all, the existing house has a basement. This house obviously will not. It's in an AE zone. The flood elevation is 11 feet. So the house is going to be built on grade, on a slab actually. First floor elevation is about 13.2 feet. So there's no basement. And when the house was designed, there's a small section of the attic that counts toward floor area. And that's actually what pushed the house over the FAR requirement, was the area in the attic that was necessary for storage. And I think when the architect actually designed the house, he wasn't aware of that fact. And so he designed it in such a way where when we did have to count the attic space toward FAR, we were over. And that's really the only location in the house that will be available for storage. And so we're hoping to be able to have that storage area in the attic. It does increase the FAR of the house a little bit. If the obviously it wouldn't count if it were less than 7 feet tall, so the ceiling height. So anyway, and the same problem actually occurred with respect to the coverage. I think he neglected to include, initially the house design was within the coverage, but he didn't count everything that counted toward coverage when he did his calculations. When we sat down and went over it, we realized we're about little over 1% over coverage 31.1% versus 30%. So the hope is to be able to build the house as was designed. You have the floor plans, the building plans in front of you, and so that's basically the nature of the request. I know that Scott spoke to as many of the neighbors as he could. I don't know exactly what the results were of those discussions. I didn't hear of any negative responses, but I suppose if there may be a neighbor who's here, I don't know. But at any rate, if there are any questions, I'd be happy to answer them if I can.
Thank you, Attorney Gelderman. Does the board have any questions for Attorney Gelderman on 258 Oldfield Road? Yes, Jane.
You can hear me okay? Can you hear me all right?
Now, yes.
Okay, thank you. I understand that you said it's the fault of the attic that is creating the additional volume that's contributing to the FAR. And it has to do with the way attic spaces are calculated and ceiling heights within there. So I'm wondering, I know you don't want to go back to the drawing board to start again, but if you reduce the roof slope, would there be a way to bring the FAR down if you'd have less volume in the attic?
It's possible. Not being an architect, I don't know what that would entail.
Yeah.
I suppose, anything is possible.
Yeah.
I do know that it's beneficial to have some of the storage that has a 7-foot ceiling and not all be in effect attic crawl space where you'd have to duck down. Not that anybody is 7 feet tall,
Right.
but just to have that storage space where there's no basement.
Right.
So,
I mean, these are just lines on paper now. Anything could change. Nothing's built yet. So it is possible to sharpen the pencil and go back and get it down within the required coverage and FAR. That's
yeah,
this house doesn't exist yet. So
that's correct. That's
Yeah.
correct.
that's just my comment there.
I
Thank you.
appreciate
Okay.
that.
Thank you.
Other questions for Attorney Gelderman? Okay, hearing no other questions. Is there anyone that wishes to speak in favor or in opposition to 258 Oldfield Road? All right, I don't hear any comment one way or the other, so the hearing on 258 Oldfield Road is now closed. Thank you very much, Mr. Gelderman.
Thank you, Mr. Coyne. I appreciate it. Take care.
And I did see Faith, and I see Daphne. So we're going to move back to our continued docket, as I'd indicated earlier, and we're going to take up the two Vesper Street applications. So members that we have sitting on the Vesper Street applications, obviously myself as chairman, Katie O'Grady, Brian Avalone, Daphne Dixon, and Faith Dillon will be sitting on that hearing. Terry, you're pausing on this, and we are going to take this, and I'm going to ask at the end of the public hearing, the continuation of the public hearing from July, that a board member seek to move to executive session so we can vote on it right away, and then we'll move back to our public hearing. So I will call, just for purposes to open it back up, the two matters of 13 and 14 on our continued docket. 49 Vesper Street, Lot A, Map 42, Parcel 422, petition of John Joseph Zadravec for a variance of zoning regulations, section 5.1.1, to reduce the lot size and lot square from 6,000 square feet and 60 square feet, proposing 5,000 square feet and 50 square feet, and section 2.7 to reduce street frontage from 60 feet, proposing 50 feet, permission to establish a building lot for a single-family dwelling premises B zone. And we also took up at the same time the last hearing, 49 Vesper Street, Lot B, map 42, parcel 422, petition of John Joseph Zadravec Jr. for a variance of zoning regulation, section 5.1.1 to reduce the lot size and lot square from 6,000 square feet and 60 square feet, proposing 5,000 square feet and 50 square feet, and section 2.7 to reduce the street frontage from 60 feet, proposing 50 feet, permission to establish a building lot for a single-family dwelling premises B zone. At the time that we suspended the public hearing on 49 Vesper Street, Mr. Fazio had presented his application talking about these two lots and what they were seeking to do. And we had an opposition by Mr. O'Connell. Spoke to this. I know we have some comments that were submitted.
Mr. Chairman, you're fading out a little bit. Not yet. No. Not very well at all. Sorry.
Better now?
That's better, yes.
Some reason I click it, mute, unmute, back and forth, and then it works. Where did I leave off where you could hear?
You're finishing up with Mr. Fazio had made his presentation. You're on to opposition.
All right, we had heard opposition from Mr. O'Connell. Attorney Green was about to present opposition on behalf of his clients. However, an issue of a conflict was raised by the applicant, to which Mr. Green, Attorney Green, respected. And I think that was for the anonymous. And I have information from Attorney Fedor, who is now representing, and she submitted, and she may be speaking. And there might be some other people. So at this time, I'm opening it back up to people in favor or opposition, because I know we have also a statement in favor of the application that was submitted to the board as well. So I'm opening it up now for people that are in favor and opposition. Please give me your name if you are in favor, and say so, and your name, and if you are in opposition. Anyone wish to speaking in? Attorney Fedor, yes, thank you.
Yes.
Let's first see if there's anyone in favor of the application, other than we did receive a submission by way of email in favor, who is a neighbor to the rear, I believe. All right. All right, Attorney Fedor, go ahead.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. My name is Attorney Laurel Fedor. I represent Mr. and Mrs. Anania. They live at 41 Vesper Street. And my address is 1071 Post Road East in Westport. I submitted a written objection as far as the application as presented. There are a lot of concerns that have arisen because of the property behind 49 Vesper Street, the way that property was configured. My clients are afraid that the way 49 Vesper Street will be configured, they'll have the same problems. I submitted a number of photographs that show the water table problem. They don't want the runoff from that property onto their property. They're worried about the drainage, significant water runoff because of the way of the water table in that area on their street. They're worried about the number of retention basins. If you look at the pictures, there's 8 for the other property was a number of 8 retention basins, and they were inadequate for a July rain where the water came flowing out into the street and made a mess on Pope Street. So they're worried that will happen to them. Yes. Yes. Should I continue? I thought I heard somebody say something.
Continue.
Okay. So the pictures really detail the story of what they're worried about. In addition, if you look at picture number 10 I submitted, there was a significant change in grade on Pope Street, and they're worried that that will also happen at 49 Vesper Street. And so that change in the grade, the higher grade, will further shift the water. The other point that they had was the way the houses are configured, the distance between 49 Vesper Street and 41, there's a five foot placement or setback. They would want that pushed back farther. So they object to the plan as presented. They would like to see it reconfigured. And like I said, I don't want to spend a lot of time with the board, because we did submit an extensive list of items that they were concerned. The tree line, they're worried about the tree line next to their home. There's a line of cedar trees. I submitted pictures with regard to that. Those trees, cedar line trees, pictures 12, 13, and 14. They don't want those trees disturbed or damaged during the construction, because they feel that they've been there a long time and they've, shielded from storms their home. So they really like those trees. In addition, there's a red maple tree, which I submitted a picture of in front of 49 Vesper Street. They understand that in construction, that tree will come down, but they would like to see the integrity of their neighborhood stay intact and maybe some sort of similar tree be planted. They've lived in this area, for 38 years. They really like their neighborhood. They don't like to see the change, but they are willing to work with Mr. Fazio to see that what he puts up, works with their neighborhood. So, they're not trying to, to stop him from what he's doing. They just want to see that the way it's done is it dovetails in with what's there existing. And that's their position.
Good, Attorney Fedor. Is there anyone else that wishes to speak in opposition to the Vesper Street Lot A and B applications? Anyone else? Okay, Mr. Fazio.
Hello.
Would you like to comment? You had oppositions. I know that was submitted. There was also an email submitted favoring it and support. But would you comment on
Mr. Chairman?
and Ananya?
Sorry to interrupt. There is someone trying to get your attention. Who's reaching out?
It's Mr. O'Connell. My mute was on, so when you asked about opposition, I spoke, but you couldn't hear me.
Okay. Did you need to add from the last time? We had the same board.
Well, yeah, I had a question or two. One, I wasn't clear. Is Mr. Fazio an attorney?
No, I would have called him Attorney Fazio if he was an attorney.
Oh, okay. I just wanted to clarify that. And I'm just a little. You said that we should not speak to anything in terms of flooding conditions and so on, but the attorney just spoke to that. Is that something I can speak to?
I just don't want people to go too far off the point.
I'll be very brief, and I just want everybody to know that the new residents in the house and I met, and they're extremely concerned because now they have a very wet condition on the side of their house between my property, and we're seeking to do something about that. And I think the entire properties that they're trying to build on are right next to each other, and there's a direct correlation with the property in Vesper Street and my property from Pope to Vesper, where the water is coming down to our properties. So we're seeking to work with the builder to address our issues, but also, since they're going to have the equipment over there, is possibly to address the new building too. And I'll just add that the town engineer is working with me too, and they may have a way for us to connect up to the storm sewers if we put in some drainage system. And that's it.
Thank you, Mr. O'Connell. Is there anyone else in opposition to the Vesper Street? Okay. Thank you, Matt, for bringing that to my attention.
You're welcome, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Fazio?
Yes.
Would you care to comment on the opposition to the application?
I would.
Go ahead, sir.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman and board members. I've heard the concerns of the neighbors and through their attorney and from what I heard from Mr. O'Connell today. I just want to make several points in rebuttal. The first being that 2 single-family homes have less impervious surfaces like driveways and patios, and they provide more green space than a larger 2-family dwelling, which would be buildable on that site by the current zoning regulations. Also, 90% of the homes in the area are single-family homes on 5,000 square foot lots. Secondly, the drainage requirements will be met by the town and our engineers. All the runoff from surfaces will be stabilized with silt fencing during construction and until the sod is installed. I also noted from the attorney in the letter provided that they stated that the National Weather Service for July said that they had 8 inches of rain this year. That was, but the real average is only 4 inches. The increase was due to the Hurricane Elsa that we had in July, and all those pictures where you're seeing a lot of the water, those pictures were taken during the hurricane, or it was a tropical storm by the time it hit us. The detention systems installed would be the same if I built a 2-family home on that site. So all the town requirements I will meet and exceed. Also, the last thing I'd like to point out again is that building 2 single-family homes is less intrusive to the environment and to the green space than a larger 2-family structure on that lot. My partners spoke to the Ananias. We could, and I heard their concern about the house only being 5 feet off of their property line. We took a look at our plan and were able to move the house 8 feet off the property line. So we will give them some more space between the property line and the house. And the last thing I heard, the concern from Mr. O'Connell stating that the new residents were concerned about the water and they were unhappy. I believe the letter that they wrote in favor states otherwise, which the board has. If you have any other questions, I'd be glad to answer them at the time.
Does the board have any questions for Mr. Fazio as to his rebuttal comments? Okay. Hearing no further questions, the hearing on number 13 and 14, both 49 Vesper Street, 13 is Lot A and 14 is Lot B, is now closed. Thank you, everyone, for your participation. Mr. Fazio, Mr. O'Connell, and Attorney Fedor, appreciate your comments. I'd like to move now on 49 Vesper. Hello?
I don't know who that was, Mr. Chairman. I'm sorry.
Sorry. I'd like to move now to our working session on 49 Vesper Street. I know this is out of the ordinary, but juggling some schedules and the
I know.
hearing not being in the paper at the right time, we had to move some hearing around, and we're working hard to make sure we can get everyone's application in on a timely basis. So right now, moving to working session, executive session for number 13, 49 Vesper Street, Lot A. Entertain a motion to approve. And remember, it's myself, Katie O'Grady, Daphne Dixon, Brian Avalone, and Faith Dillon who are sitting on this. So only those
So
five.
moved.
So one of those, I'm entertaining a motion to approve.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
Second,
Who seconded?
Daphne?
I didn't even get to ask for a second, and Daphne moved. All right, let's have discussion on 49 Vesper Street, Lot A. I know this is odd. We'll be having a similar discussion or repeating ourselves as to Lot B, but let's talk about this particular, it's a piece of the property moving from the required 6,060 to 5,050, and then obviously the street frontage accompanying that same amount. What is the discussion? Does anyone want to start?
Yeah, I'll start. So based on the pictures that were shown in evidence or in, by the opposition, based on the fact that it was a 25-year storm and Mr. Fazio's flood plan seems to be working somewhat in concert with, or at least as much as possible in concert with, not only the neighbors to the rear, but the town engineers. I don't think it was remarkably excessive based on what I saw in the surrounding area. Also, this proposed unit, and I guess I'll have to reiterate myself in the next one, do seem to be in keeping with the neighborhood. I don't find it remarkably objectionable.
Have a discussion?
Well, I think it does. I think it does change the neighborhood. I don't think it is without an impact. So, and as far as the rain, it was 1 month. So, I mean, I think we all know the climate change is here. And so I think there'll be more and more rain. So I whether or not that has anything to do with our ability to vote on this or not, I do think that we will see more rain. And if we saw flooding in July, I think that's something that could happen. That could happen again.
Katie and Faith, any comments, discussion?
I can say I drove by the property previously and again, and so the alternative is doing 2 single-family homes or 1 multifamily, correct?
Yep.
Well,
So
they have the ability based
yes,
upon.
right. No, I get it. Yeah, I mean, for me, looking at the character of the neighborhood, I only observed 1 multifamily house on that street. So it seems like it'd be more in keeping with the neighborhood to have 2 single-family homes. My own personal observation.
Faith, want to share anything or?
I think I would prefer the 2 houses aesthetically in the neighborhood. The area does have chronic problems with flooding in the spring, not in July. Most of those when you are in that area, most of those homes have sump pumps in the spring. I hope that the engineers address it because it's already been a problem in that area. But again, I don't think it will change anything if it has 2 homes or 1 larger multifamily home. It's still going to cause issues with the water table.
I think if we're basing this off of testimony and only my limited experience in having dealt with ELSA on a citywide level, in my professional life. The testimony from Mr. Fazio is correct that the two single family homes, I believe, would have a lower impact on flooding than the two family home, because the coverage would be constructed differently. The impermeable surfaces would be greater. You'd be looking at a much larger driveway to support a two family home, probably some kind of other structure or garage if you chose to build that. And again, I'd reiterate that single family homes seem to be more in keeping with the character of the neighborhood. Would there be no impact? No. I think the impact is significantly diminished by single family homes.
Question?
I mean, I'm just going to add, I think we would really need to see the engineering to know what the impact would be, the difference between the two. So I don't know if we actually have enough information at this point to determine which would have a greater impact, really.
Well, the engineering plans as to water runoff and drainage is not necessarily our function. Our function is,
I know. Yeah.
this particular lot, originally these lots were set out in 5,000 square foot before zoning was in place. And that was the original plan for a lot of the neighborhoods in Fairfield around. They set it up, and then zoning kind of reconfigured, and it since has reconfigured and changed some particular lots for other people as well, going from different zones, Bs to R3s, As to Bs, and so forth, which kind of keeps the ball and moving the goalposts a little bit for some of these properties. So the issue that I'm looking at here is this a unique enough situation with this particular piece of property to warrant giving some forgiveness as to whether to stick and make them, this originally was 2 lots, to make them stick with the 6,000 that has since been put in place, or allow the original 5,000. And looking at the impact of that particular house, whether it fits with the neighborhood. I mean, most of the neighborhoods are single family like that, and I tend to agree, and I lean towards a single family home as opposed to a double. I don't think Mr. Fazio is threatening that, but he's just commenting that is a right that he has, and that he would prefer to do something different. I think he will comply with the engineer, and if they need to change this because of certain conditions in that particular neighborhood, as Faith is indicating, then I would hope that they would do that. But the engineering requirements are not for this board. It is strict zoning regulations. So, any other discussion? All right, we're going to bring it to a vote, and my order is the way it appears right now, and that's going to be Brian, Daphne, Faith, Katie. Brian, how do you vote on 13?
Yes.
Daphne?
No.
Faith?
Yes.
Katie?
Yes.
I say yes. That's 41. That passes. Number 14, 49 Vesper Street, Lot B. Entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Thank you, Daphne. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Brian. And discussion. Now, this is all part of the same tape. We have the same hearing. Is there a change in the discussion from number 13 to number 14, which needs to be entertained now?
I mean, I'll reiterate what you need of it, Mr. Chairman, but I would simply state that as previously approved, a single family dwelling is more in keeping with the neighborhood than 2 family, which would be optional on this property. And I believe that Mr. Fazio will address the drainage concerns.
I don't think we have to restate.
Okay, I'm done.
I think we can incorporate our comments from number 13 to 14, and I'll do so as chairman. Okay, Brian, how do you vote?
Yes.
Daphne?
No.
Faith?
Yes.
Katie?
Yes.
I say yes. 4-1, it's the same. And for matter of fact, if we voted differently, it would cancel the first one out. Anyway, since we can't divide the property that way. All right, that concludes the working session on number 13 and 14. Thank you, Daphne. Thank you, Faith, for jumping in to join us, taking out from your appointments. You're free to go or stay if you wish. Thank you, though.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm clicking back and forth on the mute to make sure people can hear me. Going back to our general docket, public hearing for this 12/2021. Yes? No. Number 4, 141 Warwick Avenue, map 30, parcel 92. Petition of Gregory and Deborah Sullivan for a variance of zoning regulations, section 5.2.4, to reduce the street land setback on a corner lot from 22 feet, currently 15.8 feet, proposing 15.8 feet. Permission to enclose an existing open porch, premises A zone. I believe the owner is presenting that.
Yes, good afternoon, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners. Debbie Sullivan here, 141 Warwick Avenue. My husband and I have made an application to enclose our porch into a much-needed mudroom and laundry room. As you can see from our plans and survey, we are not expanding the footprint, nor are we exceeding our floor plan requirements. Our only hardship is that we are bound by 2 street lines, and an entire home is non-conforming as it sits into the street line setback. We do comply with the primary street line and all other setbacks and zoning regulations. That's it. Any questions you have?
Does the board have any questions for Ms. Sullivan? I don't hear any questions. I don't see anyone raising hands.
Right.
Does
All righty. Well, thank you for your time this afternoon. I appreciate
Hold
it.
on, Ms. Sullivan. Don't
Yep.
leave yet. Is there anyone that wishes to speak in favor or in opposition to 141 Warwick Avenue? All right, hearing none. The hearing now on 141 Warwick Avenue is now closed. Now you can go, Ms. Sullivan. Thank you
All
very much.
right. All right. Appreciate it. Take care.
Number 5, 1150 Black Rock Turnpike, map 76, parcel 228, petition of 2150 Black Rock Turnpike LP for a variance of zoning regulations, section 31.2.16, to increase the height of a structure above the roof depth of 5 feet, currently 30 feet, proposing 12 feet, and to reduce the setback from the edge of the roof to 4 feet, currently 3.5 feet, proposing 3.3 feet. Permission to add 3 antennas to an existing platform, premises DCD zone. And Mr. Sagastrano is presenting this.
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, go ahead, sir.
Well, I'm representing T-Mobile. My name is Paul Sagastrano. I work with a group called Northeast Site Solutions. T-Mobile had several small antennas inside a flagpole on this property. And in light of their required deployment of 5G, especially after having purchased the Sprint network, they are required to deploy 5G over a certain period of time, and it is just not possible for them to encapsulate these antennas inside the flagpole apparatus. Now the hardship, according to our situation, is that the entire network is a string of sites that operate on one another. And if one is down, it causes a lot of angst amongst the subscribers because all of a sudden they are not getting broadband they're not getting, they're not able to make their phones work in an area where they once had outstanding coverage. And according to my knowledge of Fairfield, there really isn't any place where one could do this installation by right. So no matter where we go or what we do, to accomplish this, we're going to have to get some type of a variance.
Right, does the board have any questions for Mr. Sagastano?
Mr. Chairman, I'm just missing one thing, so I just want to clarify. What would be the height of these antennae over the structure?
Okay, okay. Apparently these documents were not fully distributed, but none of our antennas are higher than the highest antenna currently permitted. So let me open up my drawings here.
I can answer that for you, Mr. Chairman, if you would like.
Sounds good.
It is 12 feet.
Okay, I'm done. Thank you.
Any other questions?
Just one quick clarification in the same vein. So we're saying that height of the structure above the rooftop deck is currently 30 feet and they want to make it 12 feet? Am I reading that wrong?
No, you're reading that correct. There's a flagpole that currently sits 30 feet above the rooftop.
Okay.
And what this application is requesting is when you exceed 5 feet in height above the rooftop, anything above that requires a variance. His total height is 12 feet above the rooftop.
But there's currently a flagpole that's 30 feet.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Flagpole is remaining, Katie, but the antennas from within the flagpole are removed and they're going to be at 12 feet.
That is correct.
Any other questions?
The only other question I would ask is there any other, or has there been any risk assessment to power or communication lines with the addition of these poles or antenna to surrounding infrastructure?
Not to my knowledge. Certainly is not something that is typical.
Just checking.
Any other questions? All right, hearing no further questions, is there anyone that wishes to speak in favor or in opposition to this application at 2150 Black Rock Turnpike?
Yes, Mr. O'Connell would.
Mr. O'Connell?
Yes.
Okay. Please give your address again for the record.
36 Pope Street, Fairfield. I'm just curious in terms of, so we're going to be looking at what we see on let's say down by the police station, those types of antennas, or regular, what exactly is it going to look like? And is that going to set a precedent?
There's already antennas on that building that are just antennas, and there are higher ones that are mounted to the top of the, I suspect, the elevator portion of the building, which are visible.
So, but are they covered now?
No.
Okay, so these are going up higher. I'm just concerned about what it may appear, the appearance of it.
They are not going up as high as most of the current antennas on the penthouse.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry, Mr. Chairman, you're gonna have to do the mute thing again. Still having trouble hearing you, sir. Yeah, about the same.
How's it now, Matt?
That's much better.
Okay,
Great.
anyone else in favor or opposition to 2150 Black Rock Turnpike? Okay, hearing nothing else. Mr. Sagristano, do you wish to comment, rebuttal to Mr. O'Connell, or do you think he answered his questions?
I did make my comment. We're not as high as the antennas on the existing penthouse. So.
Okay.
we're not going-
All right, hearing's now closed on 2150 Black Rock Turnpike. Bear with me 1 second. I'm going to try to grab a laptop. Doesn't seem to be connecting either to my internet, my Wi-Fi. I'll start now. Number 6, 180 Oldfield Drive, Lot A, map 232, parcel 14, petition of Clifford Deutsch and Joseph Deutsch II for variance of the zoning regulations, section 5.1.1, to reduce the lot size from 6,000 square feet, proposing 5,668 square feet. Permission to establish a building lot for a single-family dwelling premises B zone. And we are taking these together. I assume would be appropriate. Attorney Fallon,
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
180 Oldfield Drive, Lot B, map 232, parcel 14. Petition of Clifford Deutsch and Joseph Deutsch II for variance of zoning regulations, section 2.7, to reduce street frontage from 60 feet, proposing 54.39 feet. Permission to establish a building lot for a single-family dwelling premises B zone. Go ahead, Attorney Fallon.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. I take it everyone can hear me okay. I'm John Fallon. I'm here today representing an attorney in Fairfield. I'm here representing 180 Oldfield Drive, LLC. Let me start off. The property is located in the Residence B zone, and it constitutes, as you can see from the surveys, we've submitted 11,796 square feet. As members of the board know, in the Residence B zone, the minimum lot area requirement for a single family home is 6,000 square feet, and the minimum requirement for a two-family home is 9,000 square feet. As the chair in the call indicates, what we're asking for in these two applications is a variance in order to establish what's shown on your plans as the proposed lot A, which will be close to, but somewhat under the 6,000 square feet at 5,668 square feet. We also, if you note, the proposed lot B will be complying with the minimum lot area requirement for a single family home at 6,128 square feet. Both of the lots are going to comply with the minimum square requirement in the zone of 60 square feet. With regard to the proposed lot B, we are also requesting a variance of section 2.7 to reduce the lot frontage from 60 feet to 54.39 feet. That is a regulation that recently was changed. Previous to the recent change in the B zone, the frontage requirement was the same as the square, that being 20 feet, but it's been changed and we do need relief there. So when you take the big helicopter picture here, what we are asking by way of these variances is to have one lot be at 5,668 square feet, but otherwise totally compliant with all the regulations of the B zone, and one lot to be oversized at 6,128 square feet, but with a small, I would say fairly de minimis variance of the lot frontage requirement to 54.39 feet. We're not looking for any other variances, and will comply with, as I said, all other requirements of the zone, including obviously lot coverage and maximum building floor area. We're not seeking any variances for anything other than what I've just referenced. This is similar to other applications you've heard. We've got an extremely oversized lot, almost double the size as anticipated for a single family house in the zone. And we could construct, as a matter of right, a two-family duplex. But after considering this matter carefully and discussing it with the neighborhood, and I know you, ladies and gentlemen, in your diligence have probably been out to this neighborhood on Oldfield Drive, it was clear to us, and we hope you will agree, that the two proposed single family lots, as we propose them, to accommodate two very attractively and designed and compliant single family residences is a very superior approach than perhaps a much more massive two-family duplex, which I think both in terms of its appearance and its use would be out of character with the surrounding neighborhood, which is primarily a single-family residential neighborhood. We believe what we are proposing will obviously have a much more positive impact with respect to both the aesthetics of the neighborhood and property values. Taking all of that and looking at the statute, Connecticut General Statutes 8-6(3), you need to make two findings. One, that what we proposed is not going to adversely affect the comprehensive zoning plan, and that two, there are facts and circumstances that constitute a proper basis for a finding of hardship. The first part of the test, I think, is pretty easy here. Our appellate court has held that if a use to be allowed after a variance is granted is a permitted use in the zone, that in itself satisfies that requirement. As I said before, we're seeking to establish two single-family homes, a single-family home obviously being permitted in the zone. The homes to be constructed, as I said before, we believe as a single-family homes are going to be much more in character with the quality and the residential characteristics of the neighborhood, much more harmonious than would be a sort of what I would think would be an out-of-place, much larger duplex structure. In that regard, I submitted through Mr. Decker two petition forms, and you can see my clients have been busy. I believe by my quick count, they've been signed by 14 people, including, I'm pretty sure most, if not all, the residents of Oldfield Drive, who I would think by way of this petition would confirm that they would prefer to see these two single-family homes here, one on a lot that's totally compliant by way of lot area, one that's only slightly smaller. And in that regard, I also submitted through Mr. Decker a copy of the Assessor's Map 232. And I did try to mark out at the very bottom right-hand corner the lot in question, which is noted on this as lot 14. The reason I did that was I wanted to show you, as you probably know from your own review of the street, that most of the lots that were created by a map that was first filed in 1943 are in fact consistent more or less with the lot sizes that we're looking to establish here. So that again, not only will the use as a as a single family be consistent with the character of the neighborhood, but the lots themselves will be. Indeed, one, as I said, is totally compliant. The hardship here is basically based upon the fact that this oversized lot was created many, many years ago before the current zoning regulations were adopted. We have a situation where we have an 11,796 square foot lot in a zone that would allow a two-family there. And as I've said before, we believe two single-family homes on the lots as we propose them will have a much better impact, be much more harmonious, much more consistent with the comprehensive plan. So that's really our basis of hardship. And without being redundant, by way of summary, we think this neighborhood is a single family neighborhood. We think these lots very much will accommodate two beautiful, properly sized, zoning compliant single family homes. We believe, as I think the neighbors have, by way of execution of these petitions, concurred that there'll be absolutely no adverse effect in terms of what we propose. Indeed, the adverse effect to the character and consistency of the neighborhood would come from a, quote, as of right two-family duplex, which we would like to avoid. So we hope that you would agree with us that this is an excellent proposal. At the end of the day, as I said, the one lot, Lot A, is compliant with the lot area requirements, Lot B, but Lot A is nearly 6,000 square feet. In any event, if you look at the assessor's map and the characteristics of the neighborhood, this will fit in very, very nicely, whereas a two-family would stick out, I think, like the proverbial sore thumb. So be pleased to answer any questions you might have. We would hope you would favorably consider these applications.
Thank you, Attorney Fallon. Does the board have any questions? Yes, go ahead, Jane.
Hi, can you hear me now? Okay.
You're on mute, Kevin.
Can you hear me all right?
Yes.
Okay. So,
yes,
Attorney Fallon, you're saying that the choice is either these two single-family houses or a duplex.
I'm saying that under the zoning regulations, the lot would accommodate a two-family home, a two-family duplex. Correct. I'm saying that what we propose in this application, Lot A is approximately 300 square feet undersized from the 6,000 standard. Lot B is really absolutely compliant, except for the small area of the street frontage. So yeah, we're just saying that it's my client's position, and we think the neighborhood's position, that two single-family homes as constituted on what we propose with these two lots is far more in keeping and in character with the quality of the neighborhood than would a duplex in this case.
There's a third alternative, which is to replace the single-family house with another single-family house.
The zoning regulations provide that the the zoning regulations are promulgated in order for people to have some certainty with what they can do with their property.
Right.
You could put a single family house, you could leave this property vacant.
Right. I'm just saying
the fact of the matter is, if I may finish, please. The fact of the matter is that the zoning regulations provide that on a thousand, almost an 11,800 square foot house lot in this zone, you could put a two-family house.
Right.
And there's nothing wrong with that.
Right.
We just happen to feel in this particular situation, two single-family homes is preferable.
So I'm unclear what the hardship is. It sounds like you're saying the hardship is you have too much land for a single-family house. Is that what you're saying the hardship is?
I set forth in my documentation, much like the application you heard previously this afternoon, that the hardship here is found by the fact that you have, first of all, a lot that was created in 1943 before the Zone B regulations were adopted, that in fact was established as an 11,796 square foot lot. And in those zoning regulations that were established after this oversized lot was created, it was promulgated that a 6,000 square foot parcel could accommodate a single family home. And it's the application of the zoning regulations that were subsequently adopted to the approval of this lot in 1943 to this rather uniquely oversized parcel that creates the hardship that's sufficient to provide you the authority to grant the variances that we're requesting here. Again, especially in light of the fact that what you end up doing there is satisfying the provisions of the comprehensive plan because you're assuring a development that is more in keeping with the character of the neighborhood as it exists today.
Okay, so it's a Zone B, so the comprehensive plan allows for two-family houses in this zone, correct?
It certainly does.
So why is that not, why would a two-family house not be in keeping with the comprehensive plan?
Because of the character of this neighborhood and its development as a single-family neighborhood. I mean, I think it's the same argument you heard on the continued docket today, and it allows you, provision is provided for you in your authority in circumstances like this to find that such a pre-existing oversized lot can and should be, in certain circumstances, subject to variances that will allow the development that is in keeping with the character of the neighborhood that you want to protect.
Thank you very much. I'll save my comments for our executive session. Thank you.
Other questions?
Thank you, Jane. Thank you.
Other questions from the board?
If you have any other questions, since I won't be able to respond during the executive session, yeah.
All right, since there's no further questions, is there anyone that wishes to speak either in favor or in opposition to the applications at 6 and 7, which are 180 Oldfield Drive Lot A and Lot B?
Can I didn't hear you, Mr. Chairman. Did you ask me a question? I'm sorry.
No, I'm asking if there's
Cut
anyone
out.
that wishes to speak in favor or in opposition.
Thank you.
All right, hearing nothing. Now the hearings are closed on 6 and 7, 180.
Mr. Chairman, Mr.
Yeah.
Chairman, can I just before you close, I don't want to belabor it, and I don't want to anticipate Jane's comments in the work session, but again, I just want to point out because I think it's very important. You have a situation here where you have a lot that was zoned into an oversized situation in a single family zone where you've had, I believe, just about every person on the street asking this board to approve the and I think fairly de minimis variances that we seek here so that the integrity of this neighborhood as a single family neighborhood can be protected. And so I think that, again, there's proper basis as a matter of technical law and also your own considerations of protecting the characters of neighborhood in Fairfield to grant the application. And I don't mean that to be argumentative, but I did want to get it on the record. I thank you for your time.
Thank you, Attorney Fallon. There is no other comments, opposition, or in favor. No other questions. The hearings on number 6 and 7, 180 Oldfield Drive, Lot A and B are now closed. And ladies and gentlemen, just bear with me. I'm going to try to join on another computer. Matt, help me out. Can you hear me now?
All right, yes, I can hear you now, Mr. Chairman. Very well.
All right. I'm going to switch to laptop.
right.
Okay. The next item that we have is number 8, 218 Bennett Street, map 26, parcel 172, Petition of Michael and Gina Meyer for a variance of zoning regulations, section 5.2.4, to reduce the sum of two sideline setbacks from 20 feet, currently 17.3 feet, proposing 17.3 feet. Permission to construct a screen porch over existing deck. Premises A zone. And as the applicant, go ahead, whoever's speaking for you guys.
Great, thank you. How you doing? Mr. Chairman, hello, members of the board. My name is Michael Marr. This is my wife, Gina Marr.
Good afternoon.
We own the home at 218 Bennett Street in Fairfield, and we are requesting a variance for screening in an existing deck. Our hardship is the required side setback bordering our neighbor, 208 Bennett Street, is 20 feet, and we only have 17.3 feet, which is why we are asking for a variance to screen in our existing deck. The owners of 208 Bennett Street, as well as all the other surrounding neighbors, have signed our petition. And if you guys have any questions, happy to answer them. But that's pretty much it.
Thank you, Mr. and Mrs. Marr. Does the board have any questions for the Marrs? All right, hearing none. Is there anyone that wishes to speak in favor or in opposition to 218 Bennett Street? Hearing nothing in favor or against, other than obviously the applicants are in favor of their own application. We're going to close the hearing on 218 Bennett Street. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Have a good day.
Number 9, as I said earlier, 740 11 o'clock road has been continued. Number 10, 38 Davis Road, map 47, parcel 182. Petition of Altered Properties LLC for a variance of zoning regulations, section 5.2.4, to reduce the street line setback from 40 feet, currently 29.3 feet, proposing 29.3 feet. Permission to construct second floor addition, premises R3 zone. I think Mr. Shea is presenting this.
Yes. Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman and member.
You either have to speak up a little bit. I can't really hear you.
Okay. Can you hear me better now?
Yeah, maybe getting closer to your laptop or the speaker.
Okay. Good afternoon, members of the board and chairman. I am the applicant. My name is Christopher Shea. I own property and I live at 1316 Cross Highway in Fairfield. And this existing single family home is a non-conforming property. It was built prior to the zoning maps being done, and therefore the front line setback exists closer to the street than is presently permitted by your regulations. And we're not proposing to change that at all. We're just proposing to take the roof off of this cape and add a full second floor to it. So we're not going to increase the coverage of the proximity to any of the setbacks. They're going to stay as is. And I've gone to all the neighbors on the street. I've shown them the plans. I have they've signed a petition which was sent over to you, and I'm available to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Shea. Board have any questions for Mr. Shea? I see shakes the head no. So no questions. Is there anyone that wishes to speak in favor or in opposition to 38 Davis Road? All right, hearing nothing, the hearing on 38 Davis Road is now closed. Thank you, Mr. Shea. We'll be taking that up later on in our meeting.
Thank you.
Our next item that we have is number 11, 1185 High Street, map 77, parcel 648Y is in yellow. petition of Sanjeev and Sanjita Kalra for a variance of zoning regulations, section 5.2.4, to reduce the street line setback from 30 feet, currently 22 feet, proposing 21 feet, permission to remove the existing deck and rebuild premises A zone.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Go ahead, sir.
Chairman and members of the board, good afternoon. My name is Sanjeev Kalra. I'm the property owner of 1185 High Street in Fairfield. We currently have a deck, a wooden deck, which is like more than 30 years old. We want to rebuild it with like latest code and with TimberTech. It's currently 12 feet deep. We want to change that to, I want to add one more foot to that. So it's going to be 13 feet deep. And our hardship is that the currently is about 22 feet away from the rear property line. Now it will be at 21 feet. So that's what we are requesting the variance on. And we have spoken to all our neighbors who abut our property, and I've shown them my new proposed deck plans, and they have shown, they have no objection to that. That's it from my side.
Thank you, Mr. Kalra. Does anyone have any questions for Mr. Kalra? All right, hearing no questions, or anyone that wishes to speak in favor or opposition to 1185 High Street? Hearing none, the hearing now is closed on 1185 High Street. We'll be taking that up later on. Thank you very much, Mr. Kalra.
Thank you.
The next item that we have is 115, number 12. It's number 115 Nutmeg Lane, map 125, parcel 77. Petition of James Gardner and Mary Kate Kelly for a variance of zoning regulations, section 5.2.4, to reduce the side line and sum of two side line setbacks from 7 feet and 25 feet, currently 2.9 feet and 14.5 feet, proposing 2.9 feet and 14.5 feet. Permission to construct second floor over existing garage premises A zone. I think I saw Mr. Gardner before. Go ahead, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It's pretty much what you see there. We are asking for a variance to build over the existing garage. We are not encroaching any further into either of the setbacks. Our hardship is that we have 3 kids who are kind of outgrowing the space, and we could really use some space for offices. We're giving up 2 bedrooms to create 2 bedrooms, but it gives us 2 small offices in order for working at home and studying at home when needed.
All right. Board have any questions for Mr. Gardner? Yes, Jane, go ahead.
Can you hear me okay? Yep. Mr. Gardner, I think when you filled out your variance application, it was very specific as to what the legal definition of hardship is. And it has to be tied to the particular characteristics of the property, not what your family's needs are. So can you maybe take another crack at describing what the hardship is so that we can review it a little differently?
I think the hardship, I don't know the legalese of it, but the hardship is that the existing house was already over the existing setback lines. So anything we do to the house is automatically in need of a variance. We would just like to improve the existing conditions. And
okay, thank you. Thank you.
Any other questions from the board? All right, hearing none. Anyone wish to speak in favor or in opposition to 115 Nutmeg Lane? Hearing no further comments. The hearing on 115 Nutmeg Lane is now closed. Thank you very much, Mr. Gardner. We'll be taking that up shortly.
thank you.
Our next item is number 13, 195 Lally Boulevard, map 182, parcel 2. Petition of Nick Margot Winnicor for variance of zoning regulations, section 5.2.4 to reduce sideline setback from 10 feet, currently 0.9 feet, and section 5.2.5 to increase lot coverage and total floor area from 20% and 40%, currently 20.5% and 40%, proposing 21% and 40.5%. Permission to legitimize a 6x8 shed. I think Ms. Jane Cambereri is presenting this.
I
Yes,
am.
go ahead.
Yes. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm actually representing them because I found out that shed was not permitted. I did not realize it needed a permit. It's a very small parcel of land, and in the due diligence that one goes through, obviously, when selling a home, we did find out about that. The home was in my name, so obviously I wanted to do right by the homeowner, the new homeowner, and that's unique. So I'm requesting that you would approve the variances. This is way out of my wheelhouse. So I listened very carefully to what everybody said, but essentially it's a lovely home. I think it was maxed out when we bought it. We've lived there for 3 years. So anything that we would need to do, we would have to, I guess, have a permit for, kind of like the gentleman that spoke previously. So I guess our hardship would be in keeping with what Jane had requested of the individual prior. I guess you have to say a personal note, it's a very tiny garage, despite being a very big home. And in fact, we couldn't fit our cars in the garage. So we were in need of actual extra space, particularly because of COVID, because we have 8 kids in total and everyone was around. So that's why the shed's there, and hopeful that you guys would be willing to approve those setbacks or change those setbacks so that Anik could keep the shed.
Thank you. Does the board have any questions for Ms. Cambereri? Yes, Jane.
Hi. Is the shed on a concrete foundation or is it just sitting on the grass? In other words, can it be moved easily?
There's a gravel foundation there.
So it's not attached to the ground. It can be moved if it needed.
Yeah, good.
Yeah. So the setback aspect of it could be solved if it was moved, right?
I suspect so. I guess that would be in keeping with what, I guess that would be a choice that they would need to make based on, I guess, the decision that you would render.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
Well, actually, I think I needed to say one more thing, Chairman. And I would assume you could see that based on the information that was submitted. None of the neighbors had a problem with it. I went back and I had everybody sign a petition, and we set out all those letters to our neighbors.
Thank you. Anyone wants to speak in favor or in opposition to this particular application? All right, hearing nothing further. The hearing on number 13195 Lally Boulevard is now closed. Ms. Cambereri will be taking that up shortly once we get to our working session. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Number 14, 1059 Reef Road, map 184, parcel 128, petition of 1059 Reef Road LLC for a variance of the zoning regulation, section 5.2.4 to reduce the street line and sum of 2 sideline setbacks from 12 feet and 15 feet, currently 4.7 feet and 9.8 feet, proposing 4.7 feet and 10.8 feet, and section 5.2.5 to increase the lot coverage from 30%, currently 48.3%, proposing 48.3%. Permission to rebuild the front porch and rear deck and stairs, premises B-zone. I think Attorney Russo, are you presenting this?
Yes, Chairman, thank you. Chris Russo with Russo and Rizzio LLC, offices at 10 Sasco Hill Road in Fairfield. Here on behalf of the applicant, 1059 Reef Road LLC, for the property at 1059 Reef Road Residence B zone for the variance stated. We're asking to reconstruct a front landing, an existing front landing, and an existing rear deck that are in need of repair in the exact same location that they are in now. We are not proposing to increase the size of either of these structures. We are not proposing to increase the height of either of these structures, and we are not proposing to change the location of either of these structures. We're literally just asking to reconstruct the front landing and the rear deck. They were built decades ago. I grew up right around the corner. I drove by this house probably every day of my childhood, and it has always been like this. But the issue is when it was built, whenever that was, maybe in the 80s, it was constructed without variances. But now it's been existing for decades and is in need of repair. It's very shaky, both the front landing and the rear deck. And so my client's merely just looking to reconstruct these two structures. The site is located on Reef Road as you get closer to Fairfield Beach Road. It's in character with a lot of the older homes. This house was built in 1946, and that's in keeping with a lot of the homes that are around in that area of Reef Road. I'm just going to pull up an aerial map to show you exactly where this is located. Second. I think that's come up on the screen. You can see Fairfield Beach Road running right down here, and then here's Reef Road. Properties highlighted in yellow. You can see the lot is in conformity with, or in character, I should say, with a lot of the lots in this section of Reef Road, and their kind of defining features are that they are very undersized for the Residence B zone. This property is 2,872 square feet, which is less than half of what's required in this zone. They're also particularly narrow. The Residence B zone requires 60 feet of lot frontage. This lot is 40 feet. And that's really what causes this issue with regard to coverage and setbacks as well. So just looking at the site plan, you can see here's the front landing. It's one of these older houses built in the 1940s. They were located close to Reef Road. The Residence B regulations came along, and all these houses became non-conforming as the front setback. So this area, this will be where the front landing is. Again, it's in the exact same location as the existing front landing. And you can see here is the rear deck. And we're looking again to reconstruct it in the exact same location. My client is proposing to, and actually already has, there was a second floor deck, second story deck that was on the back here. He was concerned about the safety of that deck. So he's actually already removed that deck. So it will just be the first floor deck. He's just looking to improve it, to improve the safety of it. He bought the house in 2018. He has become concerned with its safety. I'll show you some pictures to speak to that. And it's therefore asking for these variances now that really should have been asked for back in the 80s. I got to be honest, if the variances aren't granted, I don't know what he would do. If this eventually these landings and decks were just unusable, he'd have to put a trampoline in front of the front door so you could jump down onto the trampoline when you were exiting the front. It's the house is located where it is, and this is really kind of a minimal landing out front, and in the deck to get down to grade. You can see the stairs right here. So both the back door and the front door are elevated off the ground. I will see if I can stop sharing and pull up some pictures just so you can see. So this is the front landing that he's looking to replace. You can see it's starting to bow, obviously just extremely worn. See some of the railings coming off. And then here's Reef Road. Just looking to, again, reconstruct this in the exact same location. This is looking from the corner. You can see the corner of his house, and looking at the property next to it. Another property built extremely close to Reef Road has a front landing as well. So it's in character with the neighborhood. This is the rear deck. They had work if you drove by the property, you might have seen workers there that were working on tightening up the windows. And they removed, this is actually this ledge up here where this window is up at the top is where the second floor deck was, and that has been removed. And so this is the deck that would be replaced. You can see, even if you look over here on towards the right side of this picture, you can see this deck is starting to bow away from where it originally was and starting to pull away from the actual house. Just to show it's in keeping with the character of the neighborhood, here's a house that was recently built that also has a much taller but a rear deck. There's another property, it was a couple property down from the site that also had another deck. This is just a front view so you can see the front landing from Reef Road. A little bit closer of a look to see how degraded it's become. These are two new construction dwellings, a couple doors down from the site that have the same much bigger front landings than this site. And just looking down the street, again, you can see these houses on Reef constructed very closely to the road and all have some form of front landing. So it's across the street on Reef Road. This is the next door neighbor side by side. So you can see how close they are. Again, across the street. This is another house basically constructed right on Reef Road. And so you can see it's in keeping with the neighborhood. It's certainly in character. The neighborhood, my client went to speak to a number of the surrounding neighbors. A lot of these property are rentals, so he didn't have much success in reaching the owners of these properties. I did speak with one of the notice neighbors, Mr. Caffarelli, who was supportive of the application. And with regards to hardship, first, the site is extremely undersized and was created before the Zone B regulations came into effect. Again, it's less than half the required lot area for the Residence B zone, which necessitates the need for coverage variances. It's extremely narrow for the Residence B zone, which requires 60 feet of lot frontage. This only has 40 feet. And again, this lot for this site is in conformity with or in character with the surrounding neighborhood, where they're extremely undersized. They frequently require coverage variances, setback variances, and also in character is the dwelling, which with a lot of these houses that are next to it, they were built in the 1940s. They were built very close to Reef Road and requires that need for the setback for the front landing, setback variance for the front landing. But obviously don't feel we will have any negative impact on the neighborhood. One, because it's been there for decades, but two, a lot of our neighbors are similarly situated. Their dwellings are similarly situated. And that's basically it. Just asking to reconstruct those two structures exactly where they are, and happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Attorney Russo. Does the board have any questions for Attorney Russo? All right, no questions. Is there anyone that wishes to speak in favor or in opposition to this application? It's 1059 Reef Road. Hearing no further comments, we're going to close the hearing on 1059 Reef Road. Thank you very much, Attorney Russo.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Commissioners.
Number 15 is 175 Jefferson Street, map 22, parcel 4A, petition of Sacred Heart University, Inc. for a variance of the zoning regulations, section 5.2.2, to increase the building height from 40 feet, proposing 48 feet. Permission to construct new residence buildings, premises R3 zone. Attorney Fitzpatrick, this is yours.
It is, Mr. Chairman. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can.
Thank you. Mr. Chairman, members of the board, for the record, my name is Bill Fitzpatrick. I'm an attorney in Fairfield with the law firm of Fitzpatrick, Frey & Bologna. We have offices at 1735 Post Road. I'm here this afternoon representing Sacred Heart University, Inc., owner of the property located at 175 Jefferson Street. This property is the former Jewish Home for the Elderly property. It contains 15.5 acres and is located in the R3 zoning district. The property is abutted by the existing Sacred Heart University campus on the east, south, and west, and fronts Jefferson Street on the north. A university use is a permitted use via special exception approval in the R3 zoning district. The university has embarked on a multi-phase process with the renovation and utilization of the former Jewish Home property, thereby creating an upper quad. The first step was the renovation of the 5-story Bennett building, now Toussaint Hall, in the southerly portion of the property. That renovation has been long completed and the building has been occupied by students. Second phase was the construction of twin residence halls adjacent to the amphitheater steps on the east portion of the quad. These twin residence halls have been constructed and again occupied by students. Third phase was the construction of 3 additional residence halls, again in the new upper campus quad, known as buildings 4, 5, and 6, with building 6 including a dining facility. These buildings have been constructed with a certificate of occupancy in the process of issuance this week for the last of the 3 buildings, building 6. The continued demand for on-campus student housing has resulted in the proposal before the board today for what is labeled either the North Dorm or Building 7/8. The proposed Building 7/8 residence hall satisfies the stories requirement, which is 3 stories, but exceeds the building height limitation of 40 feet in the zoning regulations. As a result, the applicant is requesting a variance of section 5.2.2 of the zoning regulations to permit an increase in building height from 40 feet to 48 feet in order to permit the construction of University Residence Hall 7/8. The proposed building height is measured from the existing average grade of 276.94 to the midpoint of the roof, which is 324.67. This results in a proposed building height of 47.73 feet, which I have rounded up to 48 feet in an abundance of caution. At this point, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to introduce Mr. Kevin Herrick, an architect specializing in higher education and a principal in the SLAM Collaborative, the designer of this proposal, with offices in Glastonbury, Connecticut. Kevin.
Thanks, Bill. I'm going to share my screen. And you guys are seeing the wrong. Give me a second here. Mr. Chairman, could you just confirm that you're seeing a full screen image here?
Yes, it says presentation to zoning board of appeals, new freshman housing.
Great. Thank you very much. So I'm going to begin today's presentation with an aerial view that will help us put in the context of the existing buildings that Mr. Fitzpatrick just outlined, and also the site here. Turn on my laser pointer here. Okay. So the view on the left shows that these two proposed buildings at the bottom of the screen and under the red circle is what we're here talking about today. Just above, you can see the note Upper Quad, which has formed the recently completed Upper Quadrangle, which has been, I think, a pretty exciting outdoor space framed by the recent construction. I'll give you a peek a little bit inside of that at the end of the presentation. The Upper Quad set of buildings accommodates 900 beds in both apartment and suite style, as well as what we call mini suites. Mini suites are 2 double bedrooms that share a single bathroom. Okay? That's important to note because this project, the new housing project, is 480 beds in the mini suite configuration. These will be primarily dedicated to freshmen and sophomores. The building will continue to allow the university to minimize off-campus alternative housing solutions. It'll help limit traffic on the streets and maybe most importantly, improve the student experience by allowing underclassmen to be better connected to amenities, on-campus amenities, such as recreation, dining, and social activities. These are to the elevations that you have in your package. Noted on these is the calculated building height that Attorney Fitzpatrick just noted, just under 48 feet by 4 inches. As you know, Fairfield requires height to be calculated off of both the existing and proposed grades. In this case, this meant using the existing grade calculation, although the proposed grade was really very little difference and less than a foot in the calculated building height. So I think this image does a nice job of giving you the character of the building. This essentially is one building that is curved around an intimate courtyard in the center, dedicated really to student use. The building entrance is located here under the cursor and is actually on access with the entrance to the recently completed Building 6 entry, which also accommodates a 200-seat dining hall. That lobby that I just mentioned is also a pass-through into the outdoor quadrangle that was just completed. Moving down to the grade perspective, on grade perspective, you can see we anticipate mimicking the exterior materials of the Upper Quad buildings, including Bic veneer, synthetic slate roofing. We have similar roof pitches and fenestration patterns. We really see this as an extension of the Upper Quadrangle. The buildings we think are pedestrian friendly. They're warm, they're welcoming, they're familiar in their shape and design. This walk that you see here is 99% of the time is dedicated to pedestrian traffic only, so no vehicles, other than that it is designed to accommodate fire truck access and also cars on move-in day. Other than that, we anticipate no traffic in between the buildings. Moving the camera position to the east, this gives you I think a good sense of the building. 3 stories, sloped roof, punch windows. Again, very similar treatment to the character of the recently completed buildings, which actually will give me a lead in to share a few photos of the existing context that this group here that I'm presenting to is actually seen in rendering form. I'm not sure if you guys have been on campus to see the completed projects, but These were the second phase, the twin buildings, buildings 2 and 3. And you can see zooming in here some very nice materials, some sort of traditional brick mixed with more contemporary window patterns, some nice stone walls that make for the outdoor amphitheater. As we move up into the quadrangle, here you see building 4 on your left and building 5 on your right. You can actually see through the arcade, JP's Diner, and the recreation facility beyond to the west. These two buildings have been open for 1 semester. The twins have been open for 3 semesters. You'll see nice outdoor spaces and benches for students to gather. We think this is going to be a pretty exciting space that's going to really come to life in a couple of weeks when the students arrive. I think zooming in, you get to see the character of the cast stone accents, some of the outdoor arcades that you can walk under, identify building entrances, an image of a couple students, early arrivers enjoying the quadrangle. One view from the west entrance between building 4 and 5, looking back to the twins. You see the bridge connector that opens up to the amphitheater. Attorney Fitzpatrick mentioned this week we're getting the CO on building 6. I mentioned that pass-through lobby that would go right to the new buildings we're here to present today. If you walk right through these doors, you would go down a set of stairs right into the front doors of the freshman housing complex. Off to the right here, you see the dining hall. I know this group might not be too interested in what goes on inside the buildings, but I think because this might be my most favorite space in a 30-year career. So we're really excited to see this open up and be filled with students next week. So hopefully that gives you a pretty good sense of the buildings themselves that we're here for, seeking the height variance, and also that we're really trying to follow suit with the existing buildings. With that, I'll turn it back to Bill.
Thank you, Kevin. Mr. Chairman, members of the board, as you've heard from me in the past, the legal test for the granting of a variance is set forth in the Adolphson case, 205 Connecticut 703, which states regarding hardship under general statute, section 8-6, parents 3 and parents, the local zoning board may grant a variance when 2 basic conditions are met. 1, the variance is shown not to affect substantially the comprehensive zoning plan, and 2, adherence to the strict letter of the zoning regulations is shown to cause unusual hardship unnecessary to the carrying out of the general purpose of the zoning plan. First part of the test, no substantial effect on the comprehensive zoning plan is met here, where the proposed use, a university residence hall, is a permitted use in the R3 zone. The second part of the test, adherence to the strict letter of the zoning regulations, is shown to cause unusual hardship unnecessary to the carrying out of the purpose of the zoning plan is satisfied here, I would say, by several factors. First, it should be noted that the university use is a unique use in the R3 zone. The university use here has been in existence on the main campus for approximately the last 55 years. In addition, the size of the campus, 80 acres when the former Jewish home property is combined with the existing university campus, is extremely unusual for the R3 zone. It is this unique context within which this application should be evaluated. In addition, the height variance requested here should be evaluated in the context of both the existing Jewish home property as well as the surrounding Sacred Heart University property. Toussaint Hall at the southerly portion of the upper quad contains 5 stories with a height of over 55 feet, in excess of the proposed height here. In addition, the now demolished Kuryansky building, which was located in the general area of the building proposed here, contained 4 stories and was significantly in excess of the height proposed here. Also relevant is the fact that the existing university campus, specifically the residence halls known as Seton Hall and Merton Hall, located to the south in the portion of the existing campus adjacent to the Fairchild Wheeler Golf Course, contain 6 stories each and are in excess of the height proposed here. Of more relevance is the fact that the 5 existing residence halls on the newly created upper quad all required height variances. The twin dorms on the sloping east side each received ZBA approval for an increase in height from 40 feet to 50 feet 8 inches. Buildings 4, 5, and 6 also received ZBA approval for an increase in height to 48.8, 48.7, 48.7, and 48.9 feet respectively. While the university recognizes that the earlier variance approvals do not create any binding precedent, what these variance approvals do demonstrate is the Zoning Board of Appeals recognition of the fact that the construction of a university residence hall, a permitted use in this zone, while in this case complying with the existing 3-story limitation, requires additional height as part of the residence hall construction. This residence hall proposal is part of a continuing university effort to increase student residential campus on housing, which achieves the dual goal of increasing the number of students on an existing well-designed campus and taking students out of neighboring residential areas. For the reasons I've outlined, I'd request the application be approved. Approval permits the construction of Residence Hall 7/8 with a classic architectural design in a manner consistent with the density and height of the existing university campus. Mr. Herrick and I will be happy to answer any questions the board may have.
Thank you, Attorney Fitzpatrick. Thank you, Mr. Herrick. Does the board have any questions for Attorney Fitzpatrick or Mr. Herrick? Jane, yes, go ahead.
Hi. Will the construction of these dorms mean that the student population is going to increase by the number of beds that you're providing?
I don't think that's the case. I think it's a case that we are primarily, there's a significant demand from parents for their children to be on campus.
Yeah.
So the goal is to add additional housing on campus. I believe the figure is something in the order of 52% on campus today.
Yeah.
And what we're looking to do is to add, I don't think there certainly is not an increase in enrollment of 480 students. What it is an effort to increase on-campus student housing.
Okay, thank you very much.
Any other questions for Attorney Fitzpatrick or Mr. Herrick? Okay. Hearing no other questions, is there anyone that wishes to speak in favor or in opposition to the application 175 Jefferson Street, Sacred Heart University? Hearing no comments either way, we're going to close the hearing on 175 Jefferson Street. Thank you very much, Mr. Herrick. Thank you, Attorney Fitzpatrick.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All right, for the board, do we need a break?
Let's rock.
No. Katie, you need a break?
Everyone else wants to get on with it, that's fine.
Okay. We're going to reconvene our executive session, working session. Remember, for anyone listening in, it is time to make sure you're on mute. It's also not a time for you to speak. It's going to interfere with our discussion, with our voting, which is probably the most important to all the people that are waiting to hear what we have to say and what we do. So please make sure you're mute and please don't interrupt us while we're discussing this. Starting on the continued docket, the first item on our docket, 654 Tunstall Road, was withdrawn. The first item representing business is number 10 from the continued docket. That's 34 Dalewood Avenue. It's a petition of Nora Comers Rila, Attorney Bamonte presented this, and it's permission to grant a driveway easement. Entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Thank you, Brian. Is there a second?
10 seconds.
Thank you, Jane. Discussion?
I just have a question. Are we?
Your microphone's up near your ears.
Sorry. Are we voting to grant an easement or are we voting to change the street frontage and all that other stuff? I mean, do we even have the
Street
authority?
frontage, yeah.
Okay.
They need that to give the easement, because
Right.
if they gave the easement, then their dimensions are different.
Right, but we don't have the authority to grant easements,
Oh, no,
correct?
no.
Okay, thank you. That's how it's written here. That's why I wasn't sure.
Yeah, yeah. It's, well, to grant the change in the dimensions so they can
Yeah.
provide an easement.
Okay, thank you.
Without impacting their own property.
Okay, thank you.
I mean, this is a reasonable request. It's been that way. If you look at it, I mean, you wouldn't know.
Right, and this is a simpler path rather than selling off like a strip of land or changing deeds or any of that. This is more,
Yeah,
I'm
this is
just
not
curious, this is,
yeah, this is not properties where you could exchange a strip to get a strip.
okay, thank you.
Yeah,
We get
so-
to help mend fences today.
Yeah. All right. Let's bring it to a vote now. The order that I have now, oh, I'm on the wrong cursor here, is Brian, Terry, Jane, Katie, then me. Okay. Brian,
Yes.
Terry, you said yes? Okay, yes. The thumbs up and yes. Jane,
Yes,
Katie? I say yes. That application, that motion is granted. The application is granted. Number 12 was continued. That's 645 Fairfield Beach Road. Number 13 and 14, which were 49 Vesta Street, Lot A and Lot B, have already been decided. Those were granted each at a 4-to-1 vote in favor. The next item is number 1 on our general docket, 1159 Hulls Farm Road. It's a petition for Carl and Lucy Cedarholm. Attorney Fitzpatrick presented this. It's to construct the 1-story detached garage. Entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Thank you, Brian. Second.
Jane seconds.
Thank you, Jane. Discussion?
Seems to me to be a reasonable request. It took me a minute to understand kind of what they wanted to do, but based on where they're putting it and the elongated driveway and all that other stuff, it doesn't seem to be obtrusive or out of reason.
There's nothing in the zoning that prevents multiple garage spaces on property, right? I mean, if somebody wanted to build a 60-car garage, if they had the land to do it, is there any reason that would be?
Just
I
the
mean,
setbacks,
yeah.
just the lot coverage.
Yeah.
I can answer that also, Mr. Chairman. Just one bit of information. The accessory structure cannot exceed the size of the primary structure.
Okay. Okay,
Thank you.
that makes.
So if you had a
thank
big
you.
enough piece of property, you just want a bigger garage, you just build a bigger house too.
Right.
Or you just make the garage the primary structure, put a bathroom and a bedroom in it.
Then there's a whole nother set of violations.
Yeah.
Thanks, Brian.
All right, bring it to a vote. Brian,
Yes.
Terry,
Yes.
Yes.
Jane?
Yes.
Okay, Katie? Yes. That passes. Number 2, 46 Baldwin Terrace, petition of Calzone. And it's the, yeah, 46 Baldwin Terrace. And Mrs. Cerrone actually assisted on that as well. It's to construct FEMA compliant 2.5-story residence. Entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Thank you, Brian. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Terry. Okay, discussion.
I think it's reasonable and keeps with the neighborhood.
Yep.
I disagree.
But if you go through that neighborhood, Brian's absolutely correct. They're all
too big, in my opinion.
Well,
The-
we're not,
yeah.
are you going to be punitive to one home?
Sorry?
Are you going to be punitive to one application?
I've been consistent in the way I voted in this neighborhood. And my point is that I understand setbacks have to, comply with the existing conditions of a lot, but this is a brand new house. They can design it to be compliant with coverage and especially FAR to reduce bulk, which is my primary objection to these giant houses. And 8.98% is almost a quarter, you know, it's too big. I mean, it's significant.
Any other discussion? All right. Bring it to a vote. Brian,
Yes.
Terry,
Yes.
Jane,
No,
Katie? What's that?
Yes.
I
And
say
me?
yes.
Yeah.
4-1, that passes. Number 3, 258 Oldfield Road. Petition for Scott Wright. Attorney Gelderman presented this. It's to construct a FEMA compliant dwelling premises B zone. Entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Thank you, Brian. Is there a second?
Second.
Someone help me out?
That was Terry.
Thank you. I didn't hear you, Terry. Sorry.
No problem.
Discussion?
Again, I think it's reasonable and keeps it the way it wants to, the neighborhood is for the most part.
I have the same comment as before. This is a brand new house. They can sharpen their pencil and make it compliant with coverage and specifically FAR. I understand again the setbacks are because of the nature of the property on the corner, but the house itself doesn't have to be as voluminous and bulky as it's currently designed. It can be redesigned.
Any other comments? I'm going to agree with Jane because one thing they pointed out which pushes it up is that attic. We don't need to increase the size of this. I don't have a problem with going a little bit over, but when you reach into that area and that's what pushing it over, that's where I think you got to push back a little bit. I don't think there's an issue with the setbacks. I don't think there's an issue with the lot coverage. It's so close, and I understand the problems there. But they could have. This one is a little easier to design, in my opinion. So it's a little different than the last one. So I agree with Jane on this.
Well, I would simply state that if in arguments during the presentation, the only recommendation provided, I can't remember if this was this one or the last one, was the change of the slope.
It was something I asked a question since it's
Yeah,
brand
but I
new.
mean, if changing the slope and adjusting the roof line by 6 inches to make it under 7 feet is enough to deny it. I don't think it's totally out there for what's been approved.
We keep pushing the envelope and these, looking the other way and saying, oh, it's not so bad. But if you look at the result of houses that are greater than the FAR than should be on the property, I mean, look at the streetscapes that we're creating in Fairfield.
All right, let's bring it to a vote. Brian,
Yep.
Terry,
Yes.
Jane,
No,
Katie.
Yes.
I say no. Motion is denied. Number 4, 141 Warwick Avenue, petition of the Sullivans. That's to enclose existing porch, and they presented their own application. Entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Terry, is there a second?
Jane seconds.
Thank you, Jane. All right, discussion?
This one's easy. It's completely within reason.
This is one of, I think half of our applications are corner lots at least, right, Matt?
Yeah.
Yeah, I believe you're correct, Mr. Chairman.
Something I noted going through. I'm like, another corner lot. Because every one of my notes.
Right.
It says corner lot, corner lot, corner lot. All right. Yeah, I mean, this is a very reasonable request by the Sullivans. Brian,
Yep.
Jerry,
Yes.
Jane,
Yes.
Katie?
Yes.
I say yes. That passes. Number 5, 2150 Black Rock Turnpike. It's Black Rock Turnpike LP. Mr. Sangastano from T-Mobile, from a company that's representing T-Mobile, presented the application. This is for antennas on the existing platform. And we did hear from Mr. O'Connell asking questions, kind of objecting. Entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Thank you, Brian. Second.
Jane seconds.
Thank you, Jane. Discussion?
Can't see any reason why not. They're not exceeding the height either of the antenna or any of the other antennas on the building. So it's just a question of number.
I don't think you'd even see this from standing anywhere in the parking lot.
You won't. I agree.
Yeah, very difficult. And it's the building in the back too. It's not even.
Right.
It's in the back. The diner's in front.
Yeah.
And even on Stilson, you're not going to
You
see
won't perceive it. You know, people don't notice things like that.
and a mature tree line behind it as well.
Right.
All right, Brian,
Yep.
Terry,
Yes.
Jane,
Yes.
Katie. I say yes. That's 5. That passes. Number 6, I'll call them separately. Our discussion's going to overlap. Number 6, 180 Oldfield Drive, Lot A. Attorney Fallon presented this. It's to establish a building lot for a single-family home. They are slightly different, so we'll take them up separately anyway. But our discussion is a little bit overlapping. Entertain a motion to approve on number 6.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Terry. Discussion?
I think it's a reasonable application. I think with what Attorney Fallon presented in terms of the use of the property, I think not only is the property owner within kind of what they really want to do and what is within reason. I don't really see a problem with it.
Better than a duplex.
What's wrong? What's
Yeah.
wrong with two-family houses? Everybody, I mean, Attorney Fallon talked about protecting the integrity of the neighborhood. There's nothing wrong with
If you're on
two-family
a-
houses.
If you're on a block and there are no duplexes,
Yeah.
just
I mean,
take it
there
from
are
a
a lot
realtor
of
that they don't,
yeah.
they don't want duplexes on their
Why?
block.
Why?
They're keeping in line with the, consistency in the neighborhood. Katie, agree or
I
disagree?
agree.
I mean, it's
I agree. And I also actually spoke, one of my clients,
realtors. We're talking as realtors.
yeah, no, I got one of my clients lives across the street from this property, and he said, oh gosh, the whole street doesn't want to have a 2-family house because there is, not a negative perception, but again, but Terry said if it's a true single family homes, hopefully the neighbors want to keep it consistent.
And I think if it was really close, and I mean like really close, then that might be something, but I don't think it's even that close. I think what they're asking for is on reasonably sized lots. He's 328 square feet off on this particular property.
Right. I don't see a hardship. I mean, they have a perfectly good building lot. It has a compliant house. He can, if he doesn't like the house, he can tear down the house and build another single family house and not need a variance at all.
The thing I'm interested, I don't, maybe Matt, you can shed some light on this. And the one thing with that, Jane, is based on the size of the lot. They build a single family house, they could build like a gargantuan house because of the size of the property. Whereas if they're 2 separate individual homes, I believe they're probably, whether you put them together as a 2-family or separate them as two 1-families, it's still going to represent the same amount of limitations on coverage and FAR. Whereas if it's just a single family home, they can build like a monster.
They could build a castle on that lot.
The example, Jane, that we always bring up on the board is on the corner of Judson and South Benson Road. And they wanted to go, if my memory serves me, they wanted to go for 2 smaller homes and it was denied. And to this day, people comment on how unsightly that corner lot is. It's a mansion.
Right.
Everybody on this board knows what I'm talking about.
Did that house need a variance to be built as it?
No, I think once again, Kevin's got a better memory than me, but no, he built what was allowed.
Is that,
It's huge. I mean, it's people.
Needed a small setback for a side property line.
So
so it did require a variance, so it could have been denied by the board that existed before we were on. So I'm just, I mean, we all come to this board with our own agenda. And clearly mine is to encourage diversity in housing. And there's beautiful two-family houses. And I think there's some inherent prejudice against two-family houses for whatever reason. And this is a zone B that's permitted in this neighborhood. So I don't see any hardship.
All right, let's bring it to a vote. Brian?
Yes.
Terry?
Yes.
Jane?
No.
Katie?
Yes.
I say yes. Number 7, which is 180 Oldfield Drive Lot B. This one is seeking the frontage of a variance, while the other one sought the lot size variance for a zone B. Entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Thank you, Brian. Second?
Second.
Thank you, Terry. Discussion, slightly different, but our discussion somewhat overlaps. But if you
Move
want
to
to have
vote.
new discussion, let me know.
Can someone explain what the hardship is, and just so I can understand?
This one would be the shape of this particular lot. It's triangular shape.
Mhm.
You have a triangular shaped lot, and you have that directly affects street frontage.
Okay, thank you.
That's my opinion, but other people don't share. That's up to them. But that's my thought as to what a hardship for Lot B would be. Any other discussion? Brian?
Yes.
Terry?
Yes.
Jane?
No.
Katie? I say yes. 4-1, that passes. Next item is 218 Bennett Street. The Mars to screen porch over existing deck, and they presented their application. Entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Thank you, Brian. Second?
Jane seconds.
Thank you, Jane. Discussion?
Completely reasonable.
Agreed.
It will look net. And they have the brook, so I know why they want that screen. Screen door.
Yeah.
That's not a legal hardship, but that's like a pretty big important reason.
Yeah.
Screen porch with a brook with all the bugs flying behind your house.
Plus, they're not asking to increase the footprint at all.
No. Zero.
Got a lot of those say.
Yep.
All right, let's bring it to vote. Brian?
Yes.
Terry?
Yes.
Jane?
Yes.
Katie?
Yes.
I say yes. That passes. Number 9, 740 11 o'clock road was continued. Number 10, 38 Davis Road, altered properties. Mr. Shea presented. It's to add a second floor to that house. Entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Thank you, Brian. Second.
Jane seconds.
Thank you, Jane. Discussion.
This is another reasonable one. They just want to pop the top off and put a second floor on, make it more livable.
Yeah, there's one not too far from it across the street where they took it and put that floor on, and it turned out quite nice. All the lots up and down Davis are pretty much the same. All of the houses were built either within 1, 2, or 3 of their 4 setbacks. I live on Davis, so I know. Drive by them every day. So it's pretty reasonable and would fit with that neighborhood. Bring it to a vote.
Yes.
Terry?
Yes.
Jane?
Yes.
Katie? I say yes. Number 11, 1185 High Street. It's a petition of the Caras, and to remove their existing deck and to rebuild it. They want to make it a foot deeper, a foot bigger, and entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Thank you. Second?
Jane seconds.
Thank you, Jane. And discussion. Corner lot day, as I said.
It's another perfectly reasonable one. They're not looking to change much, just build a much better structure.
I don't think anyone would perceive the difference of 1 foot.
No. No. Not in, especially where
Yeah.
it's located. Yeah, you're not. All right, Brian,
Yes.
Terry,
Yes.
Jane,
Yes.
Katie? And I say yes. That passes. Number 12, 115 Nutmeg Lane. It's petition of Gardner and Kelly. It's to second floor over existing garage. Entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Hey, Brian, is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Terry. All right, discussion.
Seems reasonable to me.
I tried to tease out a hardship from the applicant, beyond what his family needs. But I'm a little torn because 2.9 feet is very close to the property line, and the house next door is about to get torn down, and there's going to be a brand new house built there. And that brand new house could be as close as, I think, 7 feet, Matt, to the property line? Or I forget.
That's correct. So, but I think that house is being torn down is on the other side of this one,
It's next door, isn't it?
but on the other side,
Side.
not the 2.9. I think it's on the 14-foot side, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay, I'm not sure about that, but anyway,
I have to look at my map, but either way, 7 feet is correct. If they wanted to do that,
right. So
yes.
so in the future, that means you would have less than 10 feet between structures that could be both, 2 stories tall. And I mean, I don't know what you need to get a fire truck back there, or if you need to, but it's kind of close. Convince me otherwise.
But they already have they're not changing the footprint. So if a fire truck can't get by now, can't get by then either.
Right. It's just that
Vice
much.
versa. It shouldn't impede.
Yeah.
And if it's my viewpoint, if it's the same footprint,
yeah,
and they don't need a variance for FAR,
right.
It's really
Okay.
not changing anything.
All right. Thank you. You've convinced me. I am reasonable.
Okay.
Bring it to a vote, Brian,
Yeah.
Yes.
Jane,
Yes.
Katie? And I say yes. Okay, number 13, 195 Lally Boulevard. Petition of Ms. Wanacore, but Jane Cambereri, previous owner, presented the application. It's legitimized a 6x8 shed. And they have some lot coverage, setback, and floor area ratio based upon that shed. Entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Thank you, Brian. Second?
Jane seconds.
Thank you, Jane. All right, discussion?
So there's 2 issues. There's the setback and then there's the coverage. And
Yeah.
I personally have no problem with the coverage, but the setback can be remedied by moving the shed. It's not on a concrete foundation. It's just on gravel. So that would solve that right there.
Moving it, yeah.
There's lots of other places it can go.
It'd either have to be on the other side of the pool or in the back left corner as you're looking from the main front of the house to the regular yard space and be 10 feet from the edge. If the neighbor to that side didn't have a problem with a 6x8 shed, I wouldn't want to take up all of that other space, but that's just.
Yeah, based on the fact that there's no push from anyone else, I don't think it's unreasonable to allow it to maintain its position.
Yeah, I saw the same 2 areas, Jane. It's a tight backyard.
Yeah.
They'd have to go on the other street side. This is another corner lot.
Yeah.
They'd have to go over there or in that back other corner, which is the only yard they have.
Yeah.
That could be fixed, but that would be the fix.
Yeah. All right.
Not be, it's not pleasant, but it's a fix. Brian,
Yes.
Terry,
Yes.
Jane,
I'll say yes.
Katie? And I say yes. Yes. Camberry will be happy that she didn't do that to the new owner that she sold the house to. Number 14, 1059 Reef Road, petition of 1059 Reef Road. Attorney Russo presented this. It's to rebuild the front porch and rear deck and stairs. Entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Thank you, Brian. Second.
Second.
Thank you, Terry. And discussion.
Uses great software.
Let him do it.
So this
For the love
this
of
shows
God,
a
let him do it.
reduction in nonconformity because they're going from 9.8 to 10.8.
No, 1 foot.
So that's a reduction.
It's pre-existing.
He's gonna drastically improve the look of the house and replace exactly what's there. If he makes it better by a foot, all the better.
Those are tiny lots. I mean,
Yeah.
And he is reducing, Jane said he's reducing the nonconformity by a foot.
Right. So that's a
Right.
good thing. That's a good
Yeah.
thing.
yep, it's all good.
All right, Brian? Thumbs up from Brian. Terry?
Yes.
Jane?
Yes.
Katie? Say yes, and I say yes. That passes. Number 15, 175 Jefferson Street, Sacred Heart University. Attorney Fitzpatrick presented this. We heard from Mr. Herrick as well to construct a new residence. It's a height variance. Entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Thank you, Brian. Second.
Second.
Thank you, Terry. Discussion.
It's gorgeous. I think it's beautiful. I think it's consistent with what they've built previously, and they're not asking for more than they've asked for in the past to get this one done.
This is just another phase of what we've approved before, if I understand it correctly, right?
Mm-hmm. Well, in addition, it sounds like the building that was there before when it was the Jewish home exceeded the height they're asking for anyway.
Yeah, the old building which they used for a short period of time was
higher.
Different height, yeah. And they're all connected and they are looking nice.
Right. So it's part of their master plan that
Right.
we've all given the thumbs up to, and you can't see it from the street.
Yeah,
It's far enough in on the property
It's
anyway.
from Jefferson Street because it's so up there sitting. I mean, it's hard to see this.
Right.
Maybe
It's,
from a golf
what
course.
happens back there is whatever happens back there.
All right, Brian,
Yeah.
Terry,
Yes.
Jane,
Yes.
Katie. I say yes. That passes. Thank you, everyone. A safe rest of this month, and we'll see you in September. I think that's a song.